So today what I'm going to do is use Python to open up a text file, read the contents of the text file. I'm going to clean up the text a little bit by like lowercasing it and removing the punctuations and stuff like that. And then I'm going to count all the words and see how many times each word occurs in the text. Right, and then I'll find from there. I'll find like the top 10 most frequent words, and then write those to a file. And so I'll read from a file, do all the stuff to it, and then write to a file, all using Python. So I have so my text. That's be a good place to start. If we come over to the syllabus, we can go to not here, to the top, go to resources, and I'll go to countwords.txt. Here's my text. We can see it's kind of long, a few paragraphs. And I'm going to click this raw button here. And I'll post this along with my code today. So you'll have it as well. So I'm going to highlight all this, Control A, Control C to copy. Then come back over to VS Code. Create a new file, call it alice.txt. We're going to call it alice.txt because that's a section of Alice in Wonderland. Right? Alice was beginning to get very tired. So here's my text file. We can see that we've got some capital letters, right? Quite a few of those. We've got some, punctuation, quotation marks, commas, question marks, all sorts of things like that. So we'll have to take all those out. We also have these gaps right here, right? So these gaps are actually new line characters, right? So this is 2 new line characters in a row because one will jump down to the next line, and then this one will jump down to the paragraph, right? So these are just invisible characters that are in there. The same thing is true actually of every ending of all these lines, right? Because they don't actually continue on to the end of the, to the right edge of the screen. So this is actually a new line in here as well. So there's a bunch of them in there. And I'll show those again once I pull the text into the code. So I got to clean up the text a little bit before I work with it. Also within this folder, we'll create, what I want to do actually is create a folder called countwords. I'll put all that in there. So inside this folder, I want to create count words. I'm going to call this AIO, all in one, because I'm going to put all of it in one file. And then later on, I'll break it up into functions and then put those functions in a module. Right, so this one will be the entire body of the code. All right, so in this, all right, so I want to write out some pseudocode, write some different steps I'm going to take. I'm going to open text file. I'm going to read its contents and save them as a giant string. So I'm going to save everything that's in it as a string, pull that into Python. After that, I'm going to clean up the text. Right, I'm going to do that by lowercasing everything. I'm going to remove the new line characters that I was talking about. I'm going to remove all punctuation. And then what I want actually in the end is a list of words. So I'm going to split at each space to form a list. And so we'll see each of those steps. After I have the list of words, I'm going to loop through the words and count how many times each occurs in the list. I'm going to save the counts in a dictionary, the words and their counts in a dictionary. Once I have the dictionary, I'm going to sort the dictionary by value and find the top n most frequent words. Right, so top n, I'm just going to make it like, it might just be 10. I'm going to make n 10 for now. So it'll be the top 10 words, but I can change that depending on how many I want. Right, so after I have my sorted dictionary, I'm going to take the top n most frequent words, and then I'm just going to take the results and write them to a file. So I'm going to take it and write it back into a file. So it seems like a lot, and we'll take this step by step here. So let's start with opening this text file. So there's a built-in function in Python called open. Right, it's going to take in a file, and you're going to tell it how you want to open it, which is this mode. You don't have to worry about anything else. So the file will be the file name, and the mode will be whether we want to read or write, or read and write, depending on how we want to do it. Right, when I open a file, I also need to close that file. So there's also a close function. And in Python, the file will stay open as long as it's not closed. Right, so until it hits close, the file is open. And if I forget to close it, it could cause weird errors on my computer, right? Because the file will just be open in the background. And so I need this close function in here too. But this is kind of annoying, right? So what I can actually do, I don't need this close function if I use what we call a context, right? So I can use the keyword with, and it will open this file, right? And I can do something with it. And we'll see how this works here in a second. Now this, I can open this file as a variable name, right? So I'm going to open it as text file. That will be the variable that the content is stored in. So now I want to open the file, and I can say alice.txt because this is in the same folder as alice.txt. And the mode I want to open with is read. Right, open the file in read mode. Right, so the way this works, right? I have a code block here. Right, we see I have a colon at the end, and now within this code block is where my file is open. Right, so alice.txt is open only in this code block. Right, so as soon as I come back to my main indentation, the text file is closed. So that's kind of a nice feature like this, and then you don't have to remember to actually explicitly close the file. So this is the way I'm going to do it. So now open is still running, it's still opening the file, and it's going to save all the contents into this variable. All right, so now I can just print text file, and we'll get some information about it. All right, so I'm going to cd into programming 102, unit 5, count words. Do Python count words all in one. And so we're going to open that file and we're going to print out some stuff. Right, so this is not very nice looking output, but this is one of those objects. Right, so this is just the outward representation of this file object that we've opened. Right, we can see that it's got a name. Right, it opened alice.txt and it's opened in read mode. So this is good. And the way this works is that we can now use the dot notation to go in and get all the information about it, and to run methods and do all the same stuff that we normally do. So I want to run. I'm going to leave this in print for now. I'm going to run the read method on this. All right, we can see if I open that up. We're not going to pass it with any arguments, and it's going to say read the most care. Okay. Yeah, read characters returned as string. The argument. Oh, okay. If the argument is negative or omitted, read until the end of file is reached, right? So it's going to read the entire thing and return a string with all the contents. So if we print now, we can see that we get the entire contents through Python. So this is good. Right now, now I can take this, and instead of printing it, right, I can save this as, I'll save this as dirty text, because this is going to be what we have to clean up, or like raw, whatever it is. So this is all we need to do, right? This is going to read its contents and save it as a giant string. All right, the text file is closed there. And now if we print dirty text, we get the contents. So what I want to do here actually, just to, because we see that we don't, like that we have this blank space over here, right? It's not, the text is not continuing onto the edge of the screen. And that's because of those new line characters. And if I want to see those, I can actually use the read lines method. And this will actually split the text at each line, right? At the end of each line. And in this case, the end of each line is a new line character. So if I do that, we're going to see all these new line characters in here. Right, so at the end of each item in this list, we see a new line character, right? Because that's where each line is ending. And then sometimes, if we look for those paragraphs where those double jumps are, we can see two in a row, right? So here's the end of one line, and here's that blank line in between, and then it starts the next paragraph. Right, so we have a bunch of new line characters in here that we're going to have to filter out. Otherwise, they'll skew our count, right? Because it's going to try to count letters with a new line character as one word, right? Because we're going to remove that punctuation. Okay, so let's clean up this text a little bit. All right, so I want to start by lowercasing everything. So I'm going to say clean text equals dirty text dot lower. Right, I'm just going to run that across the entire string, and now we can print clean text. And we'll see like all these caps here, and like capital Alice, all of them will be lowercase. Oops, this is still a list, so I need to move that back to read so I get a string. There we go. So if we look, all right, Isle, Alice, right? We can see all the capitals are gone. So that's good. Now we need to, I want to remove those new line characters. So the way I want to do that is just by using the .replace method. So I'm going to say clean text equals clean text .replace. I'm going to use the current version of the clean text and replace a certain character in it to form a new string. And I'm going to target those new line characters. And here I could use a blank string, but this would almost be an error, right? So let's check out what it looks like. Actually, this will be an error, because if I do that, every single place where there were two of those new line characters in a row, all of a sudden we've now smushed those, the end of one line and the beginning of another line together, right? Because there's no separating character anymore. So we get stuff like this, of cherry tart, or like ventured to, right? These are the end and beginning of the next line, the end of one line and the beginning of another. And they had a new line character in between, but now they have nothing. So instead of replacing these with a blank string, I just want to replace them with a space, right? So that right in between ventured and to, I end up with a space, right? Ventured to, because I'm going to be wanting to target these spaces when I'm splitting into my list, right? That's the character that I'm going to split. Now this does give me a weird side effect where those two new line characters in a row are now two spaces in a row. Right? So that's a double space that I just highlighted there. And when I split into the list, at each space, right, this double space will cause a blank string to appear in my list. And I'll show that once I split into the list. And that too will skew my count because there was a bunch of those in there, right? Every single time those paragraphs broke, there was 2 new line characters. So that'll happen a bunch. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is remove all the punctuation. And for this, I'm going to loop through each punctuation character and remove it from text. And so I'm going to get all the punctuation characters by coming up to the top and saying from string import punctuation. Right, and just grab that entire string of punctuation characters. And if I print punctuation, we'll see that it's just all these characters. So now I can loop through those. I can say for punct, that'll be my variable in punctuation. Clean text equals clean text dot replace. I'm going to target that particular punctuation character, and I'm going to replace it with a blank string. So here I can do that. I can replace it with a blank string because there'll always be a space around each word somehow. So if I print clean text now, after doing that loop, right, we'll see that all the punctuation is gone. So it's starting to look very homogeneous now, right? So it's all very uniform. These lines in here are not new lines. This is just the way that my terminal formats this. It might be my line height of my terminal or something. That's why I formats it that way. But you can see that it, right, this is all one word, F-A-L-L, right? That's not 2 lines. So I'm going to target each of these spaces and split this into a list. All right, so the way I do that is by using my .split string method. So I can say word list equals clean text dot split. Right, and since I have all these spaces, I'm going to target these spaces because that's the way that split works. Right, I target this separator, and it's going to return a list of words in the string using the separator as the delimiter. Right, and so that's like where it chops the string. So I'm going to target those space characters, every single space, and that's where it'll split. So let's print word list. And from here, we should have a list of words. Pretty neat. All right, so from here, and let's take a look here because we can see if I'm looking through, right, there's one of those blank strings. That's where the paragraphs split, right? So I replaced those new line characters with spaces, which created 2 spaces. So when I split at the space, it ended up creating this blank string in here. So, and if we keep looking, let's see, where would the next end of paragraph be? Right, there's another. And we'll find some more in there too if we keep on scrolling. There's another. So we might want to take care of those too as we're looping. All right, so now that I have my word list, all right, I'm going to count all these words and see how many times each one occurs in the list. Right, because like we've got it twice at least. There's another again, right? So we're gonna loop through and count each word. And we're gonna do this using a dictionary. All right, so we're gonna say word counts equals a dictionary. All right, we're gonna start it as a blank dictionary because we're gonna be adding all the contents to it. We don't know what's gonna be in here yet. So I'm gonna loop through the words. And what I want to do is check if the word has already been seen. Right? If it has, I'm going to add 1 to its count. And if it hasn't been seen yet, this will be the first time I'm seeing it. And so I want to add it. So if the word is not a key in the dictionary, right? If we haven't seen it yet, it'll be the first time we're seeing it. Then we're going to add it with the value of 1, right? Because it's the first time we're seeing it. If the word is a key in the dictionary, we're just going to add 1 to its value, right? Because we'll be seeing it again. So let's fill these in. I can say for word in word list. Right, that'll loop through my words. I can write an if here. If the current word is not in word counts dot keys. Right, so this will look in the keys of the dictionary, and if that word is not in there, this loop or this if statement will be true. And if that's true, we want to go into the word counts dictionary. We're going to add that word with the value of 1, right? Because that'll be the first time that we're seeing it. And I could just say else here, but I'm going to say elif word in word counts keys, right? So the opposite. If it is in there, we just want to add 1 to its count. So it's the same word counts, right? At the key of word, same position, but in the top we haven't seen it yet, and in the bottom we have. And so here we're just going to plus equals 1. Right, so if it is in the dictionary already, we're just going to add 1 to the value. If it's not, we're going to add it with the value of 1. And in doing this, this loop will count all my words. Right, so I can print word counts. And I'll run the code. So if you look at the output now, we can see we have a curly bracket on the end. So we can assume that there's 1 at the beginning as well. And now all of our dictionary items are the word as a key, and the value is how many times it appeared in the text. Right, so I'll get higher counts as I go to the top because those words will have been seen first. So 16, 31, 30, those are pretty high. And if I look, so I'll keep looking, right? I get 32, looking through. Right here, that blank string happened 11 times. And so that's actually kind of a significant count, right? Only like her only occurred 13 times. So, the word but occurred 11 times, the same amount as that blank string. So we'll probably want to take care of this blank string situation and get that out of there. And so we can do that actually by coming up here in my loop, and we'll clear some space, and we'll say skip all blank strings. All right, so we'll just run a simple check if word equals blank string. Then we're going to continue. All right, skip this iteration. And then I'll just go on to the next word. If we run this now, we go up to the top. It was in here it was like in here with the after, without, and so. Somewhere in there, right? It's gone now, we can see. Yeah, it was right after without, right before so. We go to the bottom. Oh God, I missed it. Boom. Cool. So that works out there. All right. So now on to the most complicated portion of this. All right. So this sorting of the dictionary is actually not as easy as it might seem. Right. There's no .sort method for dictionaries. All right. So what we're gonna have to do here, we're gonna have to manipulate this a little bit in order to make it work. All right, so I can't directly sort a dictionary, but what I can do is directly sort a list. And another way to think about a dictionary is a list of items. Right, so if I have the .items method, right, I can get the items out of there, and we can represent those as a list. So I'm going to say that the word items equals, right? I'm going to say it's going to be the word counts dot items, and this gives me that if I print word items, this is going to give me that dict items. What? Oh, it worked. Yeah, it's I thought it was a dictionary still. But yeah, it gives me that dict items object where each one is a little pair like that. So now we're, and if I convert this to a list, then it'll actually be the data type of a list. Oops, I need that to be here. All right, so we'll pass that into the list typecasting function, right? Because if we look up at the top, this is not a list technically. This is a dict items object. So if I need to represent this as a list in order to be able to manipulate it. Right, so we'll print it now, and we can see that that outer parenthesis gone, which means that the list is now on its own. All right, so we start with the square bracket. So this is good. So now we can sort this. All right, I'll do word items dot sort. And this sorts it in place. And now if I look at this, I'll run this again, it is sorted, right? But it's not sorted by the right thing. So this will sort it by the keys, right? It sorts it by the first value. So we see our W's down here. And if we scroll up, we get our earlier letters up top. All the A's are at the very top. So this is not exactly what we want, right? We want to sort by the values because we want to get the first 10, like the top 10 most frequent words, the words with the highest counts. So we're gonna have to do some cool manipulation here. The dot sort method actually takes in some arguments, right? So it's not telling me I can do this here. That's annoying. So it can take in something called a key, which is a function, right? And it's going to apply that function once to each item, right? And what it's going to do is that function is going to return the value that needs to be sorted, right? So that's a little bit of a tricky concept here. So right, I'm gonna define this function right here for now, but I'm going to move it up to the top later. And this is going to be sort by value. It's going to take in a tuple, right? Because that'll be each item as it's coming into this sort function. And all it's going to do is return tuple at the first index. In fact, I'll call this TUP because tuple is a special word. All right, so this is going to return the item at index 1 of the tuple for sorting. Right, so this is a special thing that the sort method can do. I can pass it this function, and as it's looping through as it's sorting the items in its looping fashion, it's going to run this function on each item. And the value that's returned from this function is the value by which it'll sort. Right, so I'm going to return the item at index 1 of each of these items, which is the value, and that's what it's going to use to sort. So sort by value will be passed in like this. I don't need to call the function here. I just need to pass it the code. So this is definitely something we haven't seen before, passing a function as an argument into another function. So what this will do is dot sort key. I'm not even going to do that. This is going to sort the list of tuples by value. Right, so we'll print out word items. And now we can see that as we scroll up, right, we have the lower numbers. These are all ones. As we scroll down, they start to count up. So it's sorted now by value. Now and so I guess I could take the last 10 items here, and that would be like the top, but then they'd be in reverse order. I'd have to do some more manipulation. So what I want to do actually is sort this by value, but in descending order, starting with the highest. And so I can pass the other argument here, which is reverse equals true. And that'll sort it in descending order.